If you're looking to get your students more engaged, then one of the best ways you can do it is by giving them choice. Students, unfortunately, tend to spend a lot of their day with decisions made for them. They come to school, they have, the breakfast that the school provides, they do the work that the teacher tells them to, and a lot of times they might go the whole day without getting to pick anything. Our students wear uniforms, so they even don't get to pick what they're gonna wear that day. I mean, they can pick like shorts or pants, but other than that, it's pretty much all decided for them. So giving students choice is a way to honor them, make them more engaged in the content, show that you care about them, and make music class a lot more personal. So let's talk about some really easy ways to incorporate some student choice without completely losing your mind and your classroom management and all that, because when you say student choice, in my head I just see like mass chaos, but it doesn't have to be mass chaos. We're talking about little ways that you can give some choice, give some ownership, let the kids get excited and more invested in music class so that they are doing the things and they take ownership for that education, because that's really the point. It is, I promise. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Becca. I'm an elementary music teacher, and I love coming to you with tips, tricks, ideas, lessons, anything that can hopefully make your music teacher life a little bit easier. So if that sounds good, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and let's get into it. So I have, looks like 5 different things that you can do that are easy to implement, won't make you lose your mind, and might even make your life a little bit easier in the elementary music classroom. So super easy, super chill. Number 1 is, which instruments do you want to play? This I did for the first time, I'm not gonna lie, because I had not finished lesson planning and I threw up a song, we were doing the song, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I was gonna have them play instruments and I forgot to pick out which instruments we were gonna use. And it was one of those like, oh crud, what are we gonna do? Like right now they're all staring at me kind of moments. I was using this with Pass the Pumpkin actually, and I was gonna have like 1 instrument per line. And as I was doing this, I was like, oh no, what are we gonna do? So I was like, you know what instrument do y'all think would sound good on this line? And this sprung into one of my favorite things to do. And I now do this a lot. I just did it with my 4th graders. We were working on Ostinati and I had to hear the 3 things we're playing. What instrument is going to work best with this? Which one's going to work best with this? Which one's going to work best with this? And letting them pick is really helpful. Now, what I'm not doing is everybody go grab whatever you feel like. No. What I am doing is, okay, we're playing 3 instruments because we have 3 Ostinati going on today. And so we're going to talk as a group and decide what instrument might be best for this group, and then going that way. So that would be my suggestion for that, is having the students help you pick out what instruments to play. Or even, we're keeping this steady beat. What instrument should we play this on? Oh, we can play it on this. Oh, we can play it on this. Great. It's something really simple, but even just that is already like giving some ownership to the kids. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes their combinations of instruments, not so great. Not what I would have picked. It's also helpful for me though, because I can see, lots of different combinations of instruments, which can be helpful for me as I'm doing future lesson planning. Cause I'm like, well, that didn't work, but these actually sounded pretty cool and I wouldn't have thought to use that. And so it's really interesting for you. And also this one's nice because it takes some of the guesswork off of you. Now I'm not having to do it myself, the kids are doing it instead. So for this, I typically will just have, like with our ostinato project the other day, we had 3 ostinati, we went over all of them, and then I was like, okay, what's gonna work for this? And then someone would be like, oh, this will work. So we would go get that, and I'd have a third of the group playing that, and then we would switch so that way they get to play everything anyway. So really easy. What instruments are we gonna play? On that note, you could do it kind of a little bit differently, but instead of letting them pick the instruments, you could let them pick which instrument they are starting with. So I do this sometimes if I have 2 instruments going on, or if I have stations, I'll say, okay, I'll let people pick which one they want to start with, and we're gonna rotate. 90% of the time we're gonna rotate. So you'll get to play lots of different things, but this way they at least get to choose something when they start. Now the problem with this one is once that group is full, then it's full, so you have to go somewhere else, and that can stink. It can also provide a really good classroom management incentive. The students who have been paying the most attention get to pick first, and so that's kind of nice as well. But this is another little thing that you can do that will help students to get to pick which instrument. What are we doing? All right, I'm gonna lump those together because otherwise I'm gonna get confused because I didn't have that one on here. So then my numbering will get confused. So let's go to number 2. Number 2 is group composition. This is something I do daily, pretty much. Somebody's doing it every day. Today it was kindergarten, actually, and we read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. We looked at the different fruits and items that the caterpillar ate. We talked about how he had a stomach ache when he ate all the sweets and how he felt good when he ate the leaf and all the fruits because, oh, caterpillars don't actually eat cake. Oh, look at that. And then we did some composing. So for this, it's really, really simple. Basically, I had apples and I had plums, and I said, okay, person sitting, I have my dots are numbered that the kids are sitting on. So I'm like, all right, number 1, what do you want to go first? Apple. Great. Put the apple up. Number 2, what do you want next? Plum. Great. Put it up there. And we keep going so that everybody gets a turn to choose the next thing. And this is a super, 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 super simple way to practice different rhythm compositions, different melodic items, practice writing rhythms, let them see how you can write notes on the staff and all that kind of stuff in a really easy way while they are getting to choose things because we're working together to do those composition items. So that's really, really easy way to do that. I also did that with my 3rd graders. We're working on form. They had to pick what form we were going to use, and then they had to pick which rhythms we were going to use for each letter of the form. Having group composition is great, but then we can do some other types of composition as well. We can do partner composition. We can do whatever. We have lots of different composition activities. We can do this where we're writing rhythms on whiteboards. We can do this with sometimes I'll do like flashcards, and I'll give you a stack of flashcards and you put them in whatever order you want to make really long patterns. We can use manipulatives to make different patterns. And so all of these things are just really easy ways to get the kids composing. When they're composing, they're not only having to read those rhythms or that melodic stuff, but they're also having to like figure out the correct way to do it and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really, really helpful to get some composing in as well. Number 4 is what I'm calling together and then separate. And so for this is more for dictation. I do a lot of dictation in class. I find it's one of the easiest ways to get the kids practice writing rhythms and also identify that they are understanding them because they have to hear it and then write it down. So a lot of times I will do dictation and I used to just, here's a pattern, here's a pattern, here's a pattern, we keep going. But nowadays what I typically will do is we'll do 2, maybe 3 together, and I will write down the who's getting that correct and who's not getting correct and things like that. Then I turn it over and let them do it. So we do a couple together and then they go off and they do whatever they want. If they're in partners, they can do it with a partner. If they're by themselves, they can do it by themselves, but they get to do a lot more composition this way. And it's always like, oh, we can do whatever we want. I'm like, yeah, you can do whatever 4 rhythms you want to do, as long as it's this many beats, that kind of stuff. Like it just gives them so much more like excitement about the activity if they get to do it themselves. So love getting to do that. Number 5 is something I don't always do. However, letting the kids pick their partners or their groups can be helpful. I don't do this all of the time. It depends on the class, it depends on the activity, but letting them pick their own groups and partners can be a really good way to get the kids invested because listen, especially those older kids, those 4th and 5th graders, all they want in life is to hang out with their friends. Like, watch them at recess, especially the girls. All they want to do is chat. They just want to talk. That's all. Like, really and truly. And so all they want to do is hang out with their friends. So letting them do activities with their friends can be really helpful. They're going to be much more excited. They're going to put a lot more effort in because they're excited about whatever the project is. So that's something we can do. Like I said, I don't always do this. A lot of times, like if I do centers, I usually do them like differentiated. So in that case, I wouldn't be doing that because I'm picking that way, or, different things. But especially with composition activities, a lot of times I let them pick their own groups as well as it's not going to be a problem. And also I'll just be like groups of 2 or 3 or 4. And then they'll be like, can we be 5? And I'm like, I don't care, sure. But just letting them have those choices is gonna make them more excited. And especially, again, if you're doing composition, especially if you're gonna have them perform something, they're gonna want to have that level of, you know, intensity. And number 6 is having the class vote on things. Specifically, I wrote down games being one of them, but there's lots of things you can have the kids vote on. Which instrument do you wanna do? Do you wanna play instruments or do you wanna play a game? You can do lots of different voting activities, and this is a good way to get the kids, you know, more interested and make sure you're doing what they actually want, because sometimes what I think they want is not actually what they want. Now, one thing specifically, like I wrote down, voting for games. So a lot of times I will do some game time, maybe once a month-ish, when I saw my kids for a week at a time. So I saw them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I wouldn't see them for like 3-4 weeks. When we had that schedule on Friday afternoons, Friday, the second half of class on Friday, we always picked a game and the kids got to pick what we did. So I would just write on the board, here's some games we played this year, which one do you want to play? And then we would vote on them, and whatever, you know, one is what we would play. Or sometimes I'll have 2 different games, you know, we can play this or we can play that. Today we my 3rd grade class got really messed up because last week I did a lesson and I didn't like the way that we did it. So then I switched the lesson. So this week they had done half of the lesson and not the other half. So we did the half that we hadn't done, and then I was like, okay, we can either go the xylophones like we did last week, or we can play bingo, because they've been begging me every single week to play bingo. And so we voted, and the kids got to do the one that they voted on, which was indeed bingo, because they're obsessed. I'm gonna have to make them like all sorts of new bingo games, because that's all they want in life is to play bingo. So here we are. But having them vote just lets them give, you know, what they want to do. I do, however, anytime we vote on something, I do make sure that we talk about, like, if we vote, we're going to do what the majority wants, which may not be what you want, but that's, you know, part of what it is being okay when our choice isn't what happens and all that kind of stuff. But it still counts as choice, and it still just helps the kids be a lot more interested in things. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can incorporate some student choice that's hopefully not super stressful. And then, of course, you can have them choose, you know, letting them choose which color egg shaker instead of me handing it out. I have, you know, tambourines that shaped like stars and tambourines shaped like moons. You get to pick, you know, do you want the star or do you want the moon? Things like that, where it doesn't matter to me, can be really nice because they get to pick. And again, I don't always do it because it depends on time, but it depends on the class and it depends on all the things, but it can be nice to just incorporate that whenever I can, just letting them pick things. And then, of course, if we're doing like action songs or keeping the steady beat, I always ask, oh, where's somewhere else we could put the beat? Where's somewhere else we could put the beat? And doing things like that. Having the kids lead where the steady beat goes. Now I'm just giving you all sorts of ideas. I should have written more down. Having the kids pick where the steady beat goes. So like having a steady beat leader up at the front and we all copy them. Those are all like really simple ways that you can add some student choice into what you're doing. And it just, you know, makes life a little bit more exciting for them. And honestly, easier for us. When I'm like, what do you think we should do? What instruments do you want to do? Then I don't have to pick which instruments we're going to do. What, you know, today we're doing ostinati, and I had the rhythms and they had to come up with the words that we were going to add to them, partially just so I didn't have to come up with the words to add to them. And then it was really interesting to hear all the different ideas. So anyway, add some student choice where you can. It'll really make life easier for you and more fun for the kids. So win-win. All right, if you made it to the end of the video, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button, and that way I will see you in the next one. Bye.